It's a Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Fodringer, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box, Adoffin, he can hit them, and he does. Adoffin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello everybody, welcome back. This is New York Talk, the Rotherham United podcast. Thank you for being with us. We have an FA Cup game to talk about. And when Rotherham talk about the FA Cup, what does it mean? It means we lost. So we'll talk about Friday night in London, which was a 1-0 defeat to Fulham. And then we'll talk about anything else Rotherham United related that we can find, which is not much at the minute, to be honest with you, but that's fine. We'll work through it. Mick's with us. How are you doing, Mick?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you. You?
I'm happy. Did you enjoy Rotherham United's FA Cup campaign?
Yes. It lasted a lot longer than I anticipated.
Is that because of the injury time? Injury time with a couple of extra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. YouTubers with us: Kelly Forbes, Steve Grundy, Sarah Ogden, David Carroll, John Hensby, CJ, Anonymous, Ruth, and Noel Jordan. And John's with us to give the independent verdict tonight. First of all, thank you for being with us on these kinds of episodes where there's not much to cover. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and like the video if you haven't done already. General thoughts, Mick, because they are a good Premier League team. They made 7 changes, I think, quite a few changes. But they're still a team that will probably win the championship, to be honest with you. With Harry Wilson and people like that. They've got some excellent players. But we defended, other than obviously the key moment, which we're going to talk about, I thought we defended really, really well.
Yeah, I thought we did. I thought it was a promising performance, to be honest with you. Organised again, like we have been away from home under Liam Richardson's tenure, to be honest. So it feels like another progression in terms of performance-wise. So yeah, I have no issues with it. I thought it was a decent enough performance. They did what the vast majority of championship sides do, didn't they? And fanned about with ball for 90 minutes and looked dangerous occasionally. But they didn't really create a great deal, to be honest with you. I mean, Victor pulled off that one really good save. That's straight at him, weren't it, really? 1-foot cameras. But yeah, good performance. Pleased with it. Very happy with it, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Anonymous says decent performance against a solid Premier League team. Didn't give them too much. No, I think that's fair in terms of that. Let's talk about the lineup, Mick. You said like plenty of change. Obviously, Victor did start. But there were changes without being stupid. You know, we're not giving 17-year-old kids debuts and things such as that, which I think was the right thing to. Obviously, in the midfield was where it really changed. Really, Klukas stayed in. Jamie Lindsay came back in, and Cafu came in for his first start in I don't know how long. And Jordan Hugill came in for Sam Nombe. Let's talk about the midfield because I think it needs talking about. What were your general thoughts on midfield? I thought we lacked any sort of composure. Fulham are a good team, so they know when to press, how to press this, that, and the other. But we were never, until Tiahi came on, we were never in control of that midfield. And then when Tiahi came on, for me, it was instantly better. Instantly.
Yeah, it was. And we didn't really have a sitting holding midfielder. That's why. You know, Klukas was the best player in the world. He's not a holding midfielder.
Yeah.
Much as both he and Cafu tried to keep possession of the ball, they managed it to a degree, but not to any great extent. We didn't really have that kind of manpower in the midfield to keep hold of it. So yeah, it kept going back to him. But then I guess given the positions of both teams, you would expect that. You wouldn't expect us to maintain possession particularly, and we're not that kind of team anyway. So even more so. But you're right. When Tai came on, different game altogether. It was a different game altogether, and certainly for me, for that last 20 minutes or so, we matched them. We matched the midfield without a doubt. You know, and I've seen a couple of comments from people saying, "Oh, Fulham had another gear to go in and everything else." Well, I'm not buying that one. I'm not buying that at all because at 1-0, you're always in danger. Always in danger. It doesn't matter who you're playing, whether you're playing, Arsenal or whether you're playing somebody from bottom of League Two. At 1-0, you're in danger. Anything could happen. So they brought on some big guns trying to tie up the game, and it made no impact at all. But that was because the midfield had changed, and we were able to maintain possession a lot better with Tai in there. So it was a struggle to start with. I agree in midfield, and they kept coming and not really having any end product, did they? So yeah, it was a makeshift team, if you like. It wasn't, a team that we were going to start in the league, but they gave a very, very good account of themselves because they were organised, and defensively we were very strong. So yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with the performance right across the 90 minutes, to be honest, with the exception of the goal. But we'll come on to that because I may have a different viewpoint to some.
Okay, that. Fair enough. There's a teaser for everybody in 10 for a few minutes' time. Jack Leeson says £400,000 for TI. He's an absolute bargain, especially when we sold Ben Wiles for $1 million quid or so. Shelley says bargain. We've had their pants down. He'll be the best midfielder in League One by a mile. It's good. For me, it's good and bad. It's the Dan Barlas situation for me. Is that you get a player who's so good at what he does, is that when they're not there, you don't really know what your team's meant to do, and that's what I felt up until when TI came on. I don't know what the midfield was meant to be doing. And then when TI came, I got it. I could see it. It worked. I understood it straight away. So this is good and bad. Like I say, it's good and bad. What if TI gets injured, like he inevitably will because he plays for Rotherham United? That's a bit of a concern that there's maybe a lack of a plan B in that midfield because of the personnel. At the moment, January might change that, might it?
We said that, didn't we, when we lost Dan Barlas? That players like Dan Barlas are coming around once in a blue moon. For clubs like us, anyway. And lo and behold, we've got another one. He's a different player, but he does a very, very similar job. He creates that link between the defence and midfield, and he's able to sweep up as well. So, without him, we're going to have to find a different way of playing. And that different way of playing wasn't necessarily the way we played against Fulham on Monday night, Tuesday night, whatever night it was.
I do.
I don't know. I still haven't got my calendar's not back up to date yet. So Friday night, that's right. So we're gonna have to alter the way we play if Tiny is not available. But at the moment, fingers crossed, touch wood, he'll be available to end the season. And if he is, that'd be a massive boost to us because, like you said, the difference he made when he came on, not just him, but in that area of midfield, that link between the defence and midfield was massive, huge, and it changed the game. It changed the momentum of the game. It gave us some momentum to go forward. Unfortunately, we didn't take the opportunities when they arose, but that's another story, I guess.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'll go through a couple of other comments. We've got the Baldy Wolfer says we're playing some good stuff under now and a few additions, and he's confident we'll be absolutely fine by the time May comes along. We look more confident with the ball and we're defending well. Shelley asked if TII play. Yes, he is. 3-year contract, was it? 3 or 4? It's only at least a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
No, he knows he might even have an extension in that potentially. Let's talk about the goal, Mick. Seb Revan gave the ball away. It's sloppy all round. Seb Revan had the ball, so he's going to get the stick. But I don't know. He didn't have any options, which put him in trouble to start with. With hindsight, he should have just gone route one. But that's obviously not what Liam Wisher's trying to do. I don't think all the time, anyway.
No, I mean we started to play it out from the back, and sometimes, and I'm all for it. Sometimes, just not every single time. For me, I have to blame probably the person responsible for that goal is Cafu, because he if we're going to play it out from the back, your midfielders have got to be aware, and they've got to create some space, and they've got to make themselves available for balls. And Cafu just hid behind one of the Fulham strikers, and wherever the striker went, he went, which gave Revan no options whatsoever. So yes, you could argue he should have just pumped it long. Yeah, he didn't. He tried to take the player on, and unfortunately, he got found out. and that's not the first time he's done that. So, yeah, it's a disappointment, but the midfield have got to help the defence. If we are going to be starting to play that way, the midfielders, Lucas, Cafu, Rathbone, whoever's on the pitch, had Tahi been on the pitch at that point, that would have been a simple ball to the edge of the 18-yard box and would have been away. That without a doubt, and it wasn't done. So whilst Revan needs to take some of the responsibility for not just hoofing it long, there's a reason why he didn't want to do that. And that's obviously the way that Liam Richardson's wanting us to play at times. But you've got to think on your feet, and it should have probably gone long. But Cafu had to make himself available. He was free. You know, he could have just stepped forward and taken the ball and just given it back if necessary. But he didn't. So, you know, it's what it is. It's a great finish. It's a great finish.
The striker, but Dico, he still had a lot to do from where he got the ball. He had to be as good as it was for it to actually go in, because Victor saves it otherwise, doesn't it? It was that good.
He hit it absolutely sweet as a nut, and I did not. I think Victor would have got to it, but it hit it with such pace that, you know, nobody's stopping that. But yeah, midfield needs to be much more switched on if we're going to start playing that from the back.
Danny's with us. How are you doing, Danny?
I'm doing good, chaps. How are we all?
All good, mate.
Very, very good.
Good.
On the goal, Danny, we'll talk about the goal. Danny's Nick's just briefly what Mick's just mentioned. Are you all on Revan stupid, or do you think that he needed help from others?
I think it's an accumulation of a lot of things, to be fair. I think it's a quality finish from their player. Like you say, Mick, I think if he doesn't hit it as sweet as he did do, Victor saves it. But he's sort of proper nestled in the top corner. I think the blame sort of falls at Revan's feet because he didn't get it out of his feet quick enough. But at the same time, it's one of them where it's like, I just wanted Victor to smash it upfield rather than play it across the 6-yard box to Revan. But at the same time, Revan could have played it to Klukas earlier. He could have played it wide to Bramall earlier. But he's tried to do too much with it at his feet and lost the ball, and then it's proceeded how it has. So it's just one of them goals where you watch it back and you just sort of go, oh, as if, you know. And I've had a few people in the pub say we were actually unlucky to concede against Fulham because I don't think they were anything properly exceptional. And minus that error that was an accumulation, like I say, I think we actually held our own overall. I don't think Fulham played to the full strength because they won't do, because it's the third round of the Cup and they're in the semi-final of the other one and with the league to focus on. But we still held our own against them. I know we'll talk about it in a minute, but I thought our goal was offside. No matter how much we hate VAR, I think it was only just offside. But at the same time, we still had our chances to go forward. But I think the main negative, I think, from our end anyway, was not going after the game, not getting it by the horns and going after it, you know, when we had the chance to break in added time and we didn't. That's my main negative from the game. But their goal, accumulation and a smart finish. And that's it, really.
Yeah, I agree. Nick says, but he's showing confidence. I think this is in relation to Revan. He's showing confidence, wanting the ball in tight situations instead of shying away. And as William Richardson, his post-match, he was begging for the ball again. There were no, again, as Nick says, there were no shying away from Revan. And that tells you a lot about somebody's character, that they're not shying away from it like other people might have done. Shelley says that Revan was fuming at Cafu. He says, we kick it long any other time, why not then? Feel a bit harsh that we lost by such a mistake. Jackson says, Sim makes a couple of mistakes, but he still looks confident Yogang proved a lot of people wrong. Yeah. Now, this brings us to Chris Taylor's comment. Rule 1, don't play football in your own penalty area. Well, Mick, this is what we're doing. This is what we want to do. This is what Liam Richardson wants to do. It's not. We're not trying to turn into Man City or anything like that. I don't think. But there is a lot more. Do you know when Matt Tiller came in a year ago, and we said, do you know what, he's going to try and potentially progress us into a team that knocks the ball around the back and play a little bit. This is what I thought was going to happen. We do go long. You've got Tom Eaves and John Hull. You're going to go long. You're going to go a bit more direct. But there is a lot more patience around it, and this is going to happen. You're going to make these mistakes, even with the best 3 centre-backs in the world. You're still going to make these mistakes. I don't have a problem with it. I've seen a few people like Chris and others suggesting otherwise, but I'm fine with the way we're playing at the minute in terms of that setup and style. Are you okay with it? Or are you a bit, I don't know, what do you think?
There are times, because I'm a Rotherham United fan, and I've followed Rotherham United for many, 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 many years, that I'm hardwired into thinking, don't fanny about in your own box. You know, it's just, and then you see sort of Revan, Tai and Bramall and Rathbone knocking it about on the edge of 18-yard box and then getting away with it regularly, you know. But it comes down to what I've said many, many times about the Championship. You know, teams are wanting to play like this, but they're wanting to play like it all the time. None of them are good enough to do it all the time. You know, you've got to mix it up. We're good enough to do it some of the time, but nowhere near. You know, nowhere near to even the levels that some of the others are trying it at. So, I think there's a time and a place. And to be fair, despite the fact that we made a mistake, that when they scored was probably a time and a place to do it. You know, we've got time. Let's knock it about. Let's knock it out from back. But we made a mistake. They've got to learn from these. They've got to learn from these. So the likes of Cafu, Clucas, Rathbone, whoever else was in that midfield need to learn from that. They need to learn that they're going to have to help the defence out when it happens. I don't want to see it all the time. No, absolutely not. But I think, like I said, there is a time and a place, and I think we've got the players to do it. We have sometimes, not all of the time.
Shelley asked, "Are we good enough?" He said he'd feel more confident with Blackett and Humphreys at the back if to do so. Jack Lee said, "We can't keep doing Route One anymore. Times have changed. If we want to be a championship, we need to play football." John Morell coming off the back of a manager who did insist on doing this way. You have to be careful when you're doing it, like Birmingham under Wayne Rooney. The defence got so confused when to play out the back, when to go long. Has to be a clear plan. Yeah. And to be fair, Danny, that Liam Richards, what is 8 games in from Liam Richards now? Is it 7 or 8, something like that?
7.
Is that the first time we've been properly caught doing that? And if you get caught one time in 7 or 8 games, do you know what? I think it's probably working.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Richards' 7th game because I know he's had 6 league games, which is 3 undefeated, which isn't too bad. But yeah, this feels like the first time we've been properly caught out, and it is by a team that's sort of used to it, if that makes sense, because you know we see a lot of teams in the Premier League do it. But just bouncing off John Morell's comment, it seems like Richardson does have a clear plan. Like he's sort of trying to get us to play a similar way to the way he had at Wigan, which is where the wing backs push high and we sort of exploit the space, whether that means passing it around the back and going from there or through the midfield or whatever. And so far, it's made us quite solid at the back. Like we've said this before, that since Richards has come in, we've looked a lot more solid in that back line. And I think it's because the wing backs are pushed slightly higher up. Whereas this time, like I said, we just got caught out with it, which Richardson experienced at Wigan a fair bit, getting caught out with it. But when Blackett and Humphreys are back, yeah, potentially we operate better because Humphreys is an on-the-ball defender. And I think we've missed him massively so far. But to say we've gone from strength to strength with the defence that we've got at the minute, it sort of says to me that when we've got the quote-unquote key defenders back, then it could improve again. Whether that's additions in January or the players coming back from injury. But I like the way Richardson's playing. Even though it wasn't as entertaining as it could have been against Fulham, I still liked it.
We're never going to get bad, were we? We're never going to be
it wasn't like nervy football, because under Taylor it felt nervy at times, whereas against Fulham it didn't. It felt like we're trying to hold around, and at times we did, whereas other times, like with the finish for the goal, that just showed the difference in quality, I think.
That's fair. Jack points out we got caught against Leicester as well. We did. You're absolutely right. Interesting, the 2 teams we got caught against are basically 2 Premier League teams, basically. Tells you what you might need to know. Chris Ellis says, Matt, what he meant was to play about that by all means. When the opposition player comes close, pass it. Don't try and dribble with it. Yeah, but then Chris is right. He's absolutely right. Don't dribble across your 18-yard box. But then you've got to have an option, which we've already said is probably Cafu's fault. but he also had essentially the confidence to do it. He's confident in what he's trying to do. So he was confident to try it, which if you've got the confidence without being arrogant, if you do it again, I'm going to be concerned and worried. But he had the confidence to try and do it, and look, it didn't work. It didn't work, did it? That's all you can say. So next time, hopefully, he does better. But we're not going to play Fulham or a team like Fulham this season, are we?
No. No, we're not.
There is that. Danny, first trip to Fulham. Talk to me about Fulham and the sights and the scenes of one of the poshest clubs in the country.
Quite
happy. Talk about the new
happily.
stand as well, because it looks ridiculous. It looks fancy, but it looks out of kilter with the other three stands.
Well, half of it was empty.
It's not fully open.
Oh, that explains it then. But yeah, the coach trip down was, quite long and jarring at times. But as soon as we got to Fulham, me and Carly decided just to go for a walk down the Thames. So we went down to Putney Bridge and back again just to stretch your legs a little bit. But Craven Cottage is one of the nicer blended grounds, if that makes sense. Like, you've got the Archibald Leach main stand, which is such a nice touch to see. But then on the other side of the pitch, you've got the brand new double-decker stand. And then the two cop ends, if you like, are a nice blend in between. So it's a nice little ground. And I actually really enjoyed the trip down overall. The bus home was also quite fun because we just watched a film and drank whiskey. So that was nice.
And actually what film it was, but if you drank whiskey, you probably don't remember.
It was, the film Pride. About the miners' strike and the gay rights movement, like, weirdly coming together in the 1980s. It's about that. And
That was a right rib tickler, that.
I know. But yeah, it was a nice trip. Fully enjoyed it. The football, maybe not. The trip itself, yeah. And to answer John Morell's comment, the whiskey was Sexton Irish whiskey.
You like your Christmas present?
Yeah, and I've got the bottle here if anyone wants to have a look on the YouTube, because it's actually a really nice bottle.
Oh, it's a fancy bottle, that.
Yeah, it's a hexagon shape. I'm going to turn it into a candle holder.
Okay. Shelley says it wasn't nervy, but it was also almost boring. They knock it about and we clear repeat. We just have circle pressure, have a shot, a goal at least. 10 minutes to go, put three up top and go for it. You'll look later on in the game in a minute, but I do take Shelley's point there. The goal, Mick, that was disallowed. Such a shame because Tom Eaves did brilliantly. I don't know if he meant to do brilliantly, but he did absolutely brilliantly at the end. And Hugo's half a yard offside. And if it's one of those that's frustrating, because if he wasn't offside, he would have still got the ball, but he's just gone that bit early. And good.
I think John Hugo's going to be disappointed in himself when he sees that back. He's looking right along the line. He has that option just to hold his run slightly. So it was a bit of a schoolboy error, really. He was clearly offside. He had no complaints about it whatsoever. But I think he'll be a bit disappointed that he didn't hold his run just a half a second. And as you say, he would have still had a tap in. So disappointing. But it was clearly off. So, yeah.
But, Danny, what it's showing is that this set-piece threat is becoming a real thing, because there was a couple in the second half as well. The long throws from Sean Morris and the one at the very, very end could have almost did fall to a shot and things such as that. There is something building from these set-pieces. There is a confidence building which we've been lacking for the last 18 months or so, to be honest with you, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I say, if Hugo holds his run a little bit, or if, just to be devil's advocate, if Fulham's defence are a little bit less clever, then it's 1-1. But yeah, we're sort of seeing that set piece threat a lot more under Richardson. It's almost like he's actually utilising the strikers the way they're meant to be utilised, which is to be from a set piece threat. And we've also found the threat from Tom Eaves, like two of his goals have come from not quote unquote set pieces, but from situations where we found a bit of space and it's almost recreating a set piece situation from across. And suddenly Tom Eaves is, a prime number 9. So yeah, it's nice to see that side of the game now being brought into it when we've not seen it as much this season. But it's also nice to see it almost hitting the ground running, I think, rather than it just being like a slow start. We've sort of gone, oh, look, we've got a set piece threat now. So, yeah, again, it's another thing that's improved under Richardson and improved very, very suddenly.
Who'd have thought if you start putting ball in the box, you might create some chances?
I know, shocking, isn't it?
It's radical. And I mean, I don't know.
I'm not saying we're geniuses, but we've been saying this for well over 12 months. Almost every podcast for 12 months.
It's not really genius, is it, to say breathe in, breathe out? You know what I mean? You've got to get the ball in the box to be able to create those opportunities, or certainly get into the final third. And unfortunately, that's not what we were doing under Matt Taylor. So yeah, it's definitely a step forward, but there are some legacies of that regime still, aren't they, in terms of that willingness to put the ball forward. I don't know whether it's something you're going to come on to anyway, but I'll wait and see whether you do.
Yeah, well, we might as well cover it now. I've got a few that's to cover, but yeah, go on. I'll let you take the rein on this one.
Well, I mean, specifically, I'm thinking about the Ollie Rathbone opportunity to put Nombe through in that second half, and Nombe's starts his run, and it's an absolute beaut. It's an absolute beaut, and all it needs is a little side foot pass from Ollie to play it down the channel, and he's 1-on-1 with a keeper with a defender chasing him, and unfortunately, Ollie turns around the other way and plays it backwards. A couple of times, more than a couple of times in this game and in the previous games, we've turned back when we should have been going forward.
Rathbone did it a few times on Friday,
and that's not like Ollie. That's not like him. Previously he's been very progressive with his passing. He's looked to go forward at every opportunity, and I think perhaps it's a legacy of Matt Taylor, like I said. But that was an opportunity, a big opportunity missed in my view. So yeah, it's something that we need to eradicate. We talked about it a few weeks ago, I think, on the game that Liam Richardson first took charge. I can't remember whether it was Leeds game or whatever it was, where Cohen Bramall were making fantastic runs time after time after time and never being picked out. Whoever the ball was watching him make the run and then turning sideways and either going sideways or backwards. So that's something that we need to iron out of the game. Because that could have created a really good opportunity on Friday night, and possibly more than one. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair, Danny. It's what I think it is. I think, especially under Matt Taylor, I think at times under Richardson, I think we're too careful. I think sometimes you've just got to take that chance. And Ollie Rathbone wasn't a massive chance, but he did it 2 or 3 times. Where you just could be just a bit more positive. And again, Mick's right. It's definitely not like Ollie Rathbone. The last month or 2 months has been very, very unlike Ollie Rathbone. And I'm desperate for him to find his form, because when he finds his form, he's a game winner for us. Yeah,
definitely. I think, we've said it before that Ollie sort of tried a bit too hard to change the game himself under Matt Taylor. And possibly that lingering with Richardson, but also the lingering threat of, if we don't play it 100% correct, we're going to get caught out by it. Please excuse the phone ringing in the background. That was my granddad wanting to talk to me.
I appreciate you've got a landline, Danny. That is...
I know. I mean, the house that I live in is 150 years old. I'm actually surprised we've got a landline to begin with. But yeah, with Rathbone, I want him to rediscover that just desire to drive the ball forward that we saw in League One and in early doors of Matt Taylor's reign. Because at the minute he seems to drive it forward a little bit and then sort of sees like the brick wall in front of him and then passes it backwards. Like we saw it in added time, where we broke forward but then played it backwards when it was a prime counter-attacking opportunity. And I do think it's a mix of potentially Ollie overthinking it and trying to play it correctly when you have to take the risk with it. Also at the same time, it's almost like ingrained not to push the boat out too far, and that's potentially lingering from Matt Taylor's reign. But we've seen us go forwards down the wings particularly well since Richardson's come in, and it's just not quite spread to the midfield yet.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as it does, then we'll have a prime counter-attacking threat. But yeah, it's just not quite gelled yet with Ollie, with that new way, I think, which is a shame because we want Ollie to do that. But it might happen after January. If he's still here, we'll have to wait and see.
I'm sure it will know how good Ollie can be. I'm sure it'll click with him. I've no doubt about that. Jack says 99 players on the bench and they're getting pelts back. And I can't remember last time we had 9 players on bench. It must have been like first couple of games at season we had 9. If we did. It's not been many at all. Holly says, notice Jamie Lindsay has picked out some really good passes. Had he slid through to the striker recent games? Yeah, he has. Not necessarily something that's in his game, to be honest with Jamie Lindsay. I don't associate him with cutting passes, but I think he's been asked to be more positive and in a better place mentally maybe than Ollie, who struggled recently. Maybe that might be the case. We have some questions on Twitter. We got one from Jack, who's in the comments as well. Jack. He asked Mick, how good was Tom Eaves in the first half? Yeah, Tom Eaves is starting to look like a proper Rotherham United striker, to be honest with you. We talked about the sort of setup to the goal that was disallowed and a few other bits, and he's getting game time. He's got 2 starts in a row. We're starting to see something really building there. And he's not going to get 25 goals a season, but he's going to be really useful alongside Hugo and alongside Nombe and maybe alongside Georgie. But we're how many episodes in a row now we're talking about Tom Eaves? And we haven't talked about him for 2 years or however long it's been. He's looking like he's fighting for the starting spot going to be every week now.
Yeah, I think he is, and we talked about this on the last podcast as well, didn't we? You know, and I agree with you. I don't think he is going to be a 20-goal a season man. I just don't at this level, and I hope I'm proved wrong. But he is a handful. It is a handful, and as much as Jordan Hugel's a handful, but he's quicker than Jordan Hugel. He's better in the press than Jordan Hugel. And he doesn't go down as much as Jordan Hugel does. Whether he's got the finishing prowess of Hugel is another matter altogether, isn't it? I don't think he has, but he may prove us wrong with that. Yeah, he's doing really, really well. I'm really impressed with him, and he can only get better as he gets more game time. So, is he the answer to our goal scoring problems? Probably not, realistically. But he's got a big part to play. There's no doubt about that. I think in the last podcast we compared him to Jukovic at Birmingham, didn't we? You know, he's a player that can make an impact, who will score your goals, who will cause problems for defences at times, depending on who you're playing and so on. So long may it continue, you know, because as you say, he will improve, he will get better with more game time. Let's be fair, he's not played for virtually 2 years.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. You know, so he's got a lot more to give, and at a time when we need players who've got more to give. So yeah, long may it continue. Got a lot of time for that lad. He's obviously worked really, really hard to learn his place back in the squad, and he's having an impact in the games as well. And hopefully, like I said, that'll continue to improve, and it'll get more and more involvement and bag some goals for us, hopefully.
Jack also says that it doesn't seem that Kelly's in Leo Richardson's plans. Could we potentially ship him out and get a bit of cash? Yeah, that's been noticeable, Danny, that Georgie Kelly was the go-to man initially for Paul Ward. I think Tom Eaves was injured, to be fair, in the Championship, and Matt Taylor, if it wasn't Jordan Hugel, it was Georgie Kelly. Tom Eaves couldn't get a look in, whereas now it seems that we've got Nombe, so Nombe and Hugel still probably have chosen 2, but it's Tom Eaves is the man up rather than Georgie Kelly. Georgie Kelly's not a 21-year-old kid or 22-year-old kid where it doesn't matter if he doesn't play for 6 months because there's always next season. He probably needs to be playing every minute that he can possibly get. What do you think the season and the rest of his contract holds for a good old Georgie?
I think we sort of saw it a bit under Matt Taylor, where Georgie didn't get a look in for a certain amount of time, and then it sort of clicked how Georgie fits into everything. And I don't think it's clicked for Richardson yet. Like, we had that stint of Georgie coming on like in the last 10-ish minutes if he was lucky in a game. And then it sort of clicked like, oh, that's what he's capable of. And I just don't think the shoes dropped with Richardson. I think we've seen flashes of it with Georgie, but nowhere near to change Richardson's mind. Maybe it's a case of purely for Georgie's career and him improving his football to some degree other than just in training, maybe a loan out somewhere, purely for game time and minutes sake. But I think with Georgie, he's just so much of a different striker to what we've got. Like, you could say that Hugo and Eaves are sort of in a similar vein. And then Nombe sort of like the pacey one who likes to get in and press, but he's also a strong lad, whereas Georgie does a little bit of everything, but he's not excelling at one particular thing. And I think that's the unorthodox nature of Georgie that some managers take a while to cotton onto. Like, there's no disrespect to managers because they're far better at managing football teams than I am, don't get me wrong. But we've sort of seen it with War now. He was a little bit unsure about Georgie to begin with, and then suddenly, oh, that's what he's capable of. We saw it with Taylor, like I said, last 10 minutes or so, and then suddenly he can actually change a game and cause chaos. And I just don't think it's got there for Richardson yet. I think if we hang on to Georgie through January, we'll probably see it maybe February time. But if Georgie goes out on loan purely for minutes' sake to, like, say, a team possibly playoff level League One potentially, I wouldn't say no to that because it's to Georgie's benefit as well as ours potentially.
Maybe he could go to Peterborough and be captain.
Yeah, exactly. We could go to Peterborough and be captain, upset Darren McAntony again, just for laugh, why not? But yeah, so it's sort of a win-win for Georgie. I think it's a win in the case of he's still playing Championship football, maybe not as many minutes as he wants, but as fans, we know what he is capable of. But at the same time, if he goes out somewhere else, it's still improving his game. It's still getting minutes under his belt. And that could lead to further development with us or further development elsewhere. So whichever route we decide to take, I'm sort of happy with. Like, don't get me wrong, I want Georgie to stay with us. However, for the sake of a career in football, I also understand if it goes a different route.
Yeah. Wolf says Hugo and Kelly need to go. We need to freshen up faces. Feels like we can get a couple of decent attacking loans. He thinks Jefferson from Sheffield United is an interesting one. Right, he says Georgie excels at sticking the ball in the back of the net. We don't create enough chances to get the best out of him, which is probably the most accurate thing. You've mentioned Peter there, Mick. Let's just touch on the Kioso situation again. He's back at Rotherham United, obviously. There, I read the comments from Darren Ferguson that Peter's told me he don't want to go back there. He wants to play for Rotherham United. Is basically what he said, and I was suddenly thinking, I can't believe he's just said that in public. I can't believe he's taken a private conversation from a player who's going back to that football club and publicly said, "Oh, you don't want to go to that football club." I couldn't believe it. It just completely. I don't know what disrespectful in the mind of the player. I just felt really unprofessional. I read it, and I don't normally get on with those kind of things, but that I just thought I would bang out of order that he came out and publicly said that. To be honest with you, am I overreacting?
No, not at all. I think you're underreacting. Okay. It's an utterly ridiculous thing to say in public, and incredibly unprofessional. But there must be something in the water down in Peterborough. My geography is not brilliant. I guess they've not really got any sort of local derbies, have they? Any sort of rivalry? So, and this sounds a bit like I'm a 14-year-old, doesn't it? You know, I'm a 14-year-old pig fan trying to create rivalries with people. It's really bizarre. The whole episode strikes me as just being really, really peculiar. You know. You get a player on loan, all well and good, and they do really, really well. We've had them all. We've had loads over the years, as I've every other club up and down the country, and they go back, and you shrug your shoulders and go, "Oh, they've gone back. Maybe we can get them back on loan." I mean, I don't remember crying when Dan Barlaser went back to Newcastle and screaming and bawling about Newcastle taking him back and not playing him. I mean, I have done when he's gone to Middlesbrough, but he's not on loan there, is he? You know. It's really, really unprofessional, and I mean, what you read on social media you take with a pinch of salt because half of it is just people fishing for comments. But some people clearly genuinely believe this, and it's really bizarre, really weird, and like you say, unprofessional from the club, which I'm not surprised. That doesn't surprise me from Darren Ferguson. It doesn't surprise me from Peterborough United with the likes of Barry Fry and Dara in there. You know, unprofessionalism is not something that would surprise me coming from any of those people. But yeah, it's just weird. It really is weird. I don't know. I saw something on Twitter today, and I meant to bookmark it so I could mention it tonight. But there is another similar set of circumstances with another club who've loaned a player somewhere, and now the team that they've loaned it to are crying like babies because they've recalled them. I can't remember who it is. I wish I could, but it's a very similar situation. It's like, what's happened all of a sudden? I mean, it's just bizarre, really bizarre. But anyway, whatever. He's our player. He's back with us. He won't be going back to Peterborough unless Dara decides he's going to get a bank loan out, a payday loan, and pay for him. It's that simple. So get over it and move on.
The quote is from Darren Ferguson. This is from BBC Cambridgeshire Sport, the pre-match interview. The quote is, "Peter has made it clear that he wants to stay with us." There's two or three things it could be, Dan. It could be genuine. It could be real. Peter Kioso could have said that, and he might have done. But to say it in public, it feels like a tactic. To be honest with you. It feels like he is trying to undermine Peter Kioso with his situation at Rotherham, so that either the fans turn on him, Liam Richardson turns on him, or whatever the case may be, so that we as a club have no else option, but we've got to get rid of him back to Peterborough United. It thinks he's like his dad, but a rubbish football club, to be honest with you. Sorry, we're no better than Peterborough United, to be honest with you, in terms of a football club. But you can't play the Alex Ferguson card of mind games at Peterborough United or Rotherham United or Shrewsbury Town or something like that. And that feels like what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this saying offends anybody, but it reeks of tough titty.
It does.
Because Kioso's our player, we pay his wages. All right, fair enough. Peterborough paid a percentage of his wages to have him on loan. But by all registered accounts and through law and whatever, he is our player. So we have the right, if it's written into his contract, to recall him at any time we saw fit, and it's mainly the January transfer window. We've seen with Jamie McCart, we didn't have that clause in his contract, so he's staying put to Barnsley's benefit. But with Kioso, he had that clause in his contract where we could recall him early. We have done, deal with it. That's it. There's no other way around it. If it is a private conversation that Darren Ferguson's given to the press, then it's a breach of confidentiality, which is quite serious for a manager and a player, because it's private conversation. No one ever wants to have the private conversations leaked, whether it's through trying to undermine it to keep him to get him to go back or whatever. But I find it more interesting with what their chairman said, where he replied to a fan, I think it was, where he said, "Oh, we can't afford him now, but we will be able to in the summer." And it's like, well, hang on. Does that mean they're banking on getting promoted and then being able to buy him, which is still a fair gamble? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Peterborough are in the automatics, are they? So it's still a gamble for them. So it just it's a very similar feeling to when we went up on points per game during when the season was for Cody.
That's exactly what this is about. That's precisely what all this is.
Yeah, it's just stemmed from that. They're all still bitter about it. The nearest derby for Peterborough is Cambridge. We're in League 2, I think.
No, they're both in League 1. Yeah, both in League 1. Yeah.
Why are they harping on at us then? Be annoyed at Cambridge. Be proud that you're doing better than they are. You know what I mean? Or are they just bitter that we've played Leicester and they haven't because that's the next local derby? You know what I mean? Just get over yourselves. He's our player. Deal with it. If you want him, buy him. If you can't, tough. Done. Sorted.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what Alan Swan's saying about it, but I can't because he's blocked me, so I can't find out.
I briefly followed him. I briefly followed him before Kioso got recalled, and he's just—I can't believe it. I'm not going to dig him out. I'm not going to. No.
No, please do. It's funny.
I just can't believe he's paid to do that job. It's just honestly, it's just, and it's difficult for journalists. I understand you if you're a journalist reporting on your own football club. I understand that it can be quite difficult because you want to be partisan, you want to back your club, but honestly, it's just us and we need to do this. And it's just just you're a journal. Try and pretend for 5 minutes you're impartial. I unfolded him very quickly, to be honest with you. I couldn't deal with it anymore. It was after they just beat Derby 3-2, last minute winner, and it was just an unbearable timeline for a couple of hours, so I had to unfollow him. So anyway, if I was the club, I'd be very tempted to not deal with them for a period of time. Peterborough for the way they've dealt with them.
Well, it's
I just no, we're not. You're not having him back on loan. We're not going to sell him to you.
It's come out that they wanted to keep him on loan for the FA Cup game against Leeds, and we said no. So that's the catalyst right there. They've chucked toys out at Pram and already wanted us to have a bad image of Kioso going, oh, they've recalled him from our club. They lost 3-0 to Leeds. It wouldn't have made much difference.
Have you seen that Patrick Bamford goal, by the way?
I haven't, no.
Oh, go and search it. It's just stunning.
Right. Okay, here's a question. Has a goal for Leeds come from a mistake from their right back?
I hope so.
Because if it hasn't, then it wouldn't have made a lick of difference. But if it has, all right, fair enough, they're justified. But it just reeks of childish playground behaviour. And I'll go back to my point before. Tough. You know what I mean? We've been in these situations with Kiefer Moore, with however many players in the past. It's about time we are that team that's annoyed somebody else. And it's just like...
It's always Peterborough.
Yeah, it's always Rotherham and Peterborough having to do it each other. It's just tough. Get over yourselves. Yeah. You know what I mean? Go out and find another right back to be your captain on loan from somebody else. I don't care who. But at the end of the day, Kioso's come back to us, deal with it. Sorted.
I just hope it doesn't affect Kioso, because this very easily could. He's still a fairly young player who's relatively inexperienced in terms of top championship football. He needs to be getting. I'm sure he will. But he needs to be getting his head down and concentrating on fitting into this team to play well. The last thing he needs is all this nonsense.
Sure, it will be. He strikes me as a proper professional, rather than a pound shop professional like some of these other people we've just been talking about. So. Yeah.
Let's see. Andrew Lang says Clark Harris going to Charlton for 450k. Could that release funds for Kioso?
No.
No.
Nowhere near enough. Not unless you're selling him 3 times.
Didn't we pay 300k for Kioso?
Undisclosed on it, but I think at the most it would have been about 300k.
So 500k is like the bare minimum we should be accepting for him then.
They've overplayed the hand, haven't they? Let's be right about it. Yeah. They've overplayed it completely. His value to anybody else is probably about 500k. His value to Peterborough is much more than that because of what he's worth to them.
It'd be worth playing Darren Ferguson at poker, wouldn't it? It'd be
easy, wouldn't it?
Be easy. I can't play the game and I'd beat him, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right. Shelley says, if PK has said that, can you blame him after how we treat him? I don't blame him for saying it.
No,
I don't have a problem with that. But because I haven't tweeted that, I've come out publicly and said that, it's all been kept private, which I think is quite a professional way to deal with things. John Morell mentions Plymouth getting another one of their players recalled, Kundle, about 20 minutes ago from Wolves. We'll talk about that next week because they have had half of their squad recalled, it seems, and the manager leave and everything else that's come in between. Interesting. Transfer business is open. Mick, we are 7 days in, weekend. Zero signings. I think we said this before the window started, that the FA Cup game actually comes at a really good time because it means you've got basically 2 weeks. 2 weeks, the 13th of January? Yeah, so just under 2 weeks before we play Stoke. So it gives a bit of time. There's no rush because they probably want to sign in time for FA Cup anyway. But it now gives a little bit of leeway. And also, the Ipswich game will be postponed. So it's only a 3-game month if you count Blackburn. So from a transfer window point of view, it's turned out, it's playing out slowly, but probably as you'd expect.
Just as well for us, isn't it? It takes us 4 weeks to do out, so we should get one signing in by end of month because we've only got is it a 4 week or a 5 week month? We might be all right. We might get 1.5 in by end of month. Well, listen, I'm not. All I'm interested in is we're now on day 7 and Victor Jansen's still a Rotherham United player, so I'm just counting days down. I mean, let's just wait and see, shall we? I'm not going to hold my breath. You know what we're like in the transfer market. Traditionally, what we've been like, whether Liam Richardson and Rob Scott are able to chivvy that along a little bit, we'll have to wait and see. But he's clear and he obviously knows what he wants. So fingers crossed we get him in. I'm not going to. I mean, come on, we're 7 days in. Let's not start whittling about what we have and haven't done and looking at everybody else and see who's paid £1 million for this or 10 million for the other or whatever. It's let's just wait and see. Trust them to get on with it. The transfer winners that we've had recently have been very, very good under Warney, under Matt Taylor, and hopefully that will continue under Liam Richardson as well. The quality that we've brought in has been right. We've not had any sort of transfer disasters that I can think of. I'm sure some people would disagree with that, but yeah, we'll be fine. I'm sure we'll be fine. But we've got these injuries coming back as well. These injured players coming back, which is key. That's massively important. Some of them, not all of them, obviously. So, yeah, watching brief as far as we're concerned, isn't it? See what happens.
Yeah, it's also good, and I suppose it doesn't actually matter, Danny. But I do like that we don't really hear any rumours. There's a couple of you in the comments mentioned that there's one pod probably coming in this week, and I quite like that. We're not signing X, Y, and Z from Wolves on loan or from Leicester on loan or whatever. It's very quiet. I'm sure it'll break an hour or two before the sign's announced, and then we can get either excited or angry because of how good the player is. This is how I like this is how the managerial search should have been. We shouldn't have heard anything about it until it's done, and that kind of thing. And the club needed better.
We didn't.
We did.
That was the whole problem.
Everybody was signing, wasn't they?
Let's be fair. As far as the club is concerned, we heard nothing at all for the whole 4-week period about the managerial search.
But those leaks came from somewhere.
Well, whatever. But we have heard nothing official whatsoever. So
I meant leak-wise. What I mean is
both ways.
Well, I mean leak-wise. The Nathan Jones leak got out. The Gary Rowett leak got out. Those leaks came out, whereas they're in transfer business, they shouldn't, do they? Should they? And they aren't.
To be fair, it's different, isn't it? It is different. I accept that, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah. I sort of like how quiet it is, but at the same time, I've changed my mind on that one. I do like how quiet it is because, like you say, there's no rhyme or reason to assume anything at the minute. Richardson's already said that they've been working on some signings when he came in straight away, rather than just going, right, transfer window's open, off we go. We've been planning it for a bit. And to say no names have come out during that period, I don't know whether we've just cast a big net and we're still whittling it down, or Richardson's just a lot more tight-lipped and it's between him and Rob Scott until it goes to Tony to sign off on if we need to pay anything. But at the same time, it's like I would like to see at least one in before the Stoke game. He sort of hinted that there could be someone before the Stoke game, but he's also hinted that there could be 5 before the Stoke game. So, but yeah, I mean, we sort of liked how tight-lipped it was at the start with Matt Taylor, but then suddenly that exploded into something completely different. I don't know whether that was just making people up and, it was the whole thing of a wrong clock's right twice a day. Don't know. But the fact it's so quiet at the minute, I think it shows that we're just whittling away behind the scenes, not really saying anything to anybody. And like I say, it might break a couple hours before it actually officially gets announced, or maybe the day before at a push. But I tell you what will happen, because it's sod's law, this happens every single time. We will announce some incredible signing whilst I'm out on the works do, or out with my mates or something, and then, oh, bloody hell, it's an emergency podcast. That will be sod's law. We'll end up announcing... I don't know, might sign Clark Harris for all I know, and it'll break whilst I'm at my works do over in Thorpe Esley or something. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I've got no names on my wall at home whatsoever, which feels a little bit alien to how it was in the summer, because as soon as the transfer window opened, we had Daniel Ayala as a rumoured link, which didn't happen until October in the end. But I've got no one on my wall at the minute. I've had no rumours from anybody whatsoever, other than Victor going to Sheffield United. But that looks a little bit
They get
iffy.
somebody else. Are they getting now?
Yeah, I've seen that they might be going after Casper Michael as well.
That's,
And they've
that's
got
broken down. Danny Ward.
Danny Ward. That'd be an interesting one. And then they've signed Bremerton, haven't they?
Yes, they have. Yeah.
Yeah, which is an interesting one.
Wasn't Danny Ward at Sheffield United previously?
I don't know actually.
I don't know. It kind of rings a bell. I don't know. I might be wrong with that. I don't know.
He's been around. He's one of those guys that's fairly young, but has been around everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so they seem to be hopefully leaving Victor alone. But here's a question for both you two and in the comments as well. Where would you like to see us strengthen first, up top or in defence?
I mean, the obvious because of injuries would have to be in defence, and I think that's what Liam Richardson's already said, hasn't it? You know, it is. We are so weak there at the moment. If we get another injury, you know, if Morrison went down on Friday night with just a bit of a kick to ankle, and you're already thinking who's going to fill in for him. You know, what's going to happen now if he has to go off? So that area has to be priority. Ayala's obviously either injured or on his way out or both. It sounds like Grant Hall's on his way out, which I don't necessarily have a problem with either of those two leaving. Although if after the two, I prefer to keep Ayala. So I think he's going to have to look at that back line. Humphreys is still weeks away. In terms of Tyler Blackie, there's been no indication as to when that's going to be. So that's going to be February, March at the absolute earliest. So that is absolutely an area that he's got to look at. You know, if Sean Morrison gets injured again now, we're going to have Seb Revan and Akeem Adoffin as centre halves. You know, it's just it can't be right, can it?
No, that's number one. It is absolutely number one. Get that central defence sorted out. Connor says we need to sort some wingers out. It's one of those, yeah, we do, but we're not playing with wingers. So that then brings you a problem. If you bring in an out-and-out winger, but we do stick with 3-5-2, you're then stuck with a winger who you can't really play anywhere, or you have to, put your square peg in a round hole or whatever. But then if you do want to go back to 4-3-3, you need wingers. You've got to have wingers. So don't know. Tom McBatley says, could we cover at left back, becoming Bramwell in centre half, maybe a striker? I think Revan is the cover for Bramwell, isn't he? Basically.
Yeah. That's the issue, and that's where the problem arises, isn't it? You know, we've got literally one fit centre half.
Yeah.
At the club, Peltz is a right back. You know, he's a standing centre half. Hakeem Adoffin is an attacking midfielder. In reality, he's probably his best position, but he's better than a standing centre half. You know, let's be fair. You know, he'd get in just about certainly the two leagues below us. He'd get in any team as a starting centre half, and that's not his best position. So, but nevertheless, that's the area we've got to. And I'm sure Liam Richardson. Well, he's already said that is the area he's looking to strengthen into.
Yeah, absolutely. Shelley says, are we only playing without wingers because we haven't got any, which is possible.
Yeah,
but I think I'm pretty sure Richardson did play 3-5-2 at Wigan. I think. So don't know. John Morrell says, I always feel like when there's no leaks, it seems organised. When you hear loads of leaks, it feels like panic and happening in regards to recruitment. Yeah, I think that's where I am with that one. I've took him out now, but have you seen that Wednesday have been linked with another Sheffield Wednesday? Wednesday been linked with another ex-Rotherham player.
Why am I not surprised? Rotherham B, Conor Coventry,
yeah,
that'd be great. I'd love to see Conor Coventry go there because he's going to take 6 or 7 games to get into the swing of it. So by the time he gets to game 3, they're all going to be screaming and bawling how crap he is. So you know, it'll be great to see meltdown, but whatever. You know. They're doing all right under that new manager, so good luck to them, and hopefully they can help us to bridge that gap between us and the 4th and 5th bottom and so on, and then we can just screw them over when we all get there.
Yeah, you got questions about teams now. You got Huddersfield are dropping and inconsistent at best. Plymouth have been pillaged by all their best players and their manager. Swansea have brought the Notts County manager in, which might work, or probably work, but you don't know because it's a big step up. Who knows what's happening at Birmingham? I think Mowbray's coming in, and if Mowbray comes in, that'll see them fine. But again, will that go through? Schumacher seems to have started okay at Stoke, but just okay from the outside. So yeah, all to play for.
It is all to play for. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There we go. Anything else we need to mention?
Just one more weekend of games going our way would be fantastic, wouldn't it? But we can talk about that on Thursday.
Yes, we can. Thank you, everybody. What I would say next, if anybody wants to, I keep asking Kioso for questions. If you want to send some questions in, either short ones on Twitter or Facebook, or longer ones via email, which is rufcpod@gmail.com. Let us know, because over the next couple of weeks, especially with the Ipswich game being postponed, we're going to have 3 weeks. So if you want to send some question, we'll do a question episode. If people want it, if you don't want it, don't worry about it.
Get Tommy on. That's my question.
So yeah, let us know what you want in terms of episodes, because we've got nothing else to talk about during that Ipswich week. So let us know what you think we should be doing for that week, and we'll see what we can do. Please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done already. Again, we want 1,500 by the end of the season, which we're 160 away, 170 away. So there we go. John Morell says, is Danny on the show Thursday? If so, I will think of some questions. I don't know what he means by that, Danny. So be careful what you agree to, mate. So yeah.
If it's anything to get me in trouble at work, the answer will be no.
Subscribe on there. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, make sure you subscribe and give it the show a 5-star rating wherever it allows you to do so. We shall be back on Wednesday, which will be a preview of Stoke, which is a big game. We'll talk about it on Thursday, but it's a big game. And any transfer business might be a player or two in by Thursday. We just don't know. Hopefully there will. Hopefully there will be. People asking for Tom Eaves now.
What have I done?
We can always ask the question, can't we? We can always ask the question. Worst they can get is a no. Boys, thank you for being with us tonight. Mick, pleasure.
Always for me, not for you or anybody else.
And Danny, as always, mate, appreciate it.
Yeah, always happy to be here, lads.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the Millers.
Up the Millers.
Slides into Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Foderingham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box, the Dolphin, he can hit them, and he does. The Dolphin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favor, drop me off in